Dire wolves once roamed across North and South America, from Canada all the way down to Venezuela. And these weren't just any wolves, they were larger than present-day wolves that dominated the landscape for over 100,000 years. But they went extinct about 10,000 years ago. A company called Colossal Biosciences just announced that they've created 3 wolf pups with direwolf DNA. But before you start picturing Game of Thrones coming to life, let me break down what's actually happening here. Scientists took ancient DNA from direwolf fossils. They extracted DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old ear bone. And these fossils are stored in museums and they were lent out to the company. Now, this by itself is already pretty cool because ancient DNA gets damaged over time and it can be really hard to extract because it can be degraded, so of poor quality. There can be very small amounts to use and it can be contaminated by microorganisms. So getting to the point where you're extracting DNA from fossils is already a step in the right direction, and it's really hard to get to that stage. They then compared the ancient DNA to modern grey wolves, and they found about 20 key genetic differences. I've got my own version of a direwolf here. She's chewing on a bone, which is probably what you can hear from all the rustling. Now, using a precise gene editing tool called CRISPR, you can think of it like genetic scissors that can edit DNA and cut it with incredible accuracy. They modified the grey wolf DNA to match these direwolf traits. They then created embryos and implanted those into surrogate domestic dogs. Now, the pups that were born do look different to grey wolves and to domestic dogs. They have broader shoulders and bigger bodies and paler coats than typical grey wolves. But here's the really interesting part. They're not actually direwolves. It's more like they're grey wolves with a few direwolf features. So you can kind of think about it this way. Humans and chimps share 99% of our DNA, but we're obviously very different. And those tiny differences in our DNA matter a lot. The direwolf split from grey wolves over 300,000 years ago, which means there are likely millions of genetic differences between them. So changing just 20 bits of DNA is like changing just a few words in a whole story. So while this is a really amazing and exciting scientific achievement, extracting ancient DNA, figuring out which parts matter and successfully editing modern animals, it's not exactly bringing back an ancient species. It's more like creating a designer breed, a designer wolf with a few ancient traits.